Hello everyone, my name is Ty Everett. I am the founder of Unite.Cash. Today I'll be talking about the November 2018 Bitcoin Cash hard fork upgrade and making an argument that a chain split on the Bitcoin Cash network is largely inevitable. Here's some background. Several proposals exist for the November 2018 Bitcoin Cash upgrade. First, we have the ABC proposal, which, among other things, seeks to canonically order transactions within blocks and implement OP check data sig and OP check data sig verify. Next, we have Bitcoin SV, which, among other things, seeks to re-implement OP L-shift and R-shift, re-implement OP invert, and has stated their intention to continue to increase their block size to be above 32 megabytes. The third camp we have is the hashtag November camp, whose stance is largely that if no consensus can be reached, then we must do nothing at all. And a kind of similar camp to the November camp is the Cobra client camp, who basically does the same thing, except for they say we're going to fork the chain and, they're going to implement replay protection, but other than that, they're largely synonymous with the hashtag November camp. And finally, we have Bitcoin Unlimited and Bitcoin XT. Their stance is, we stand for compromise, and we will implement all of the proposals brought forth by ABC and SV, and select the chain based on the highest amount of proof of work. So, whichever one of these proposals gets the most hash power will win, right? The white paper says the chain with the most proof of work will win. Miners indicate their acceptance of blocks by mining on top of them. Whichever proposal whose blocks don't get orphaned will be the winner, right? Wrong. This is completely false. Actually, while the white paper does say things similar to that, the chain of valid blocks with the most proof of work is accepted. Invalid blocks are always rejected, regardless of proof of work. Now, validity is determined by the implementation. Validity is determined by whether you're running SV or ABC or BU or what have you. Validity is determined by the implementation. It's not just determined by some arbitrary thing that everybody just magically agrees on. The longest chain of valid, the chain of valid blocks with the most proof of work is accepted. Here's a visualization. On the top here we have Bitcoin ABC with their proposals or improvements, and on the bottom we have Bitcoin SV with their proposed improvements. And on the left hand side we have a chain of blocks, which as the fork date draws closer, more blocks are added to the end of the chain. Finally, we have reached the time of the fork, and today is November 15th, 2018. All blocks mined past this date have these new rule sets activated. Suppose that a Bitcoin SV block is first mined. We know it is an SV block because it contains a transaction implementing OP invert. Now, at this point, ABC nodes will reject this block. ABC rejects this block on the premise that the block is invalid, not based on proof of work. This block has more proof of work than the ABC side because no ABC block was found. All ABC nodes on the network will outright reject the Bitcoin SV block regardless of the amount of proof of work, for the reason that the block has invalid rules according to the ABC nodes. Proof of work does not matter. So now we get another SV block, and we know it's an SV block because it has a transaction in it which has OPL shift. SV is perfectly fine with this because it implements these changes, and actually an SV node would be, or sorry, an SV pool would be the one mining this block, so it would accept those changes. All SV nodes accept these changes, regardless of the fact that the Bitcoin ABC chain now has 2 blocks. There exists now a chain with 2 blocks more worth of proof of work than the Bitcoin ABC chain. Bitcoin ABC still rejects these blocks because they're invalid. Now, let's say there comes along a perfectly valid block, just per se, that builds on top of the SV chain. It would be perfectly valid according to Bitcoin ABC's rules, and I don't know if this is technically possible because of canonical ordering and other things, but just bear with me and suppose that it happens. We get a block on the built on top of the latest SV block that implements ABC's rules. Guess what? ABC will still not accept that block because it was built on an invalid block. ABC nodes continue to reject the SV chain regardless of proof of work. Now suppose we get a Bitcoin ABC block, and we know it's an ABC block because it contains the OP check data sig, and SV does not implement OP check data sig. SV nodes, regardless of proof of work, will reject this block due to it being invalid according to their implementation. They do not care about proof of work, they only care that the block is invalid. ABC will accept this block because it is, according to their implementation, the longest chain with the most proof of work. In fact, it is the only chain because, according to ABC, these 2 blocks on the bottom here for SV don't even exist. They're invalid blocks. They might as well be Litecoin blocks. They're invalid. They don't matter. Now we get a second ABC block. And just pretend that second ABC block, I know it says it's canonically ordered, but just pretend it's perfectly valid according to SV. Guess what? SV is not going to accept it because it's now built on top of a block which is invalid according to SV's rules. This means that the network has effectively split. Proof of work does not play into this at all. We now get a new SV block which implements invert again. ABC does not recognize it as being valid because the rules are not valid according to ABC's protocol, or their implementation. These blocks on the bottom are not valid according to ABC, and the 2 blocks on the top are not valid according to Bitcoin SV. The chain has effectively split. Regardless of what happens from this point forward, it is not possible to remedy the chain split. Replay protection won't be enabled because nobody wants to implement replay protection and admit they're wrong. I mean, that's just a fact. But the chain will have effectively split, and you're going to see a bunch of duplicated transactions on both sides. This has nothing to do with hashing power whatsoever. Proof of work does not play a factor if the blocks themselves are invalid. That's what people don't understand. The Bitcoin Cash network will split on November 15th, 2018, unless people come together and find a solution. The only clients, to my knowledge, that that can actually even see both chains, because the SV client and the ABC client don't even see both chains. The only client that will do this is Bitcoin Unlimited and maybe XT, and that star just, the only client that will even look at hash power or recognize both chains is Bitcoin Unlimited, and possibly XT. Bitcoin Unlimited looks at which chain has the most proof of work. According to the white paper, that's what the clients need to do. Look at which chain has the longest, not the longest chain, there was an error in the white paper, but which chain has the most proof of work. Not the most number of blocks, the most proof of work. Bitcoin Unlimited is the only implementation that does this. ABC will reject outright SV's chain, and SV will reject outright ABC's chain. So, if you don't want to see the Bitcoin Cash network split on November 15th, 2018, you, as the community or the merchants or the miners or whoever watches this, maybe nobody, will run Bitcoin Unlimited. Do we want to lose a year's worth of progress on adoption? Is the Bitcoin experiment going to fail in this way? We need to realize the facts. I realize that we live in the post-truth era, but the facts are that if people don't realize the severity of what's going on here, there will be 2 Bitcoin Cashes when you wake up on November 16th, 2018. Look at the facts and draw your own conclusions.